Welcome to another Madera South YouTube tutorial video. I'm Jordan Maddox, the librarian here at Madera South. Today we're going to be focused on deconstructing and analyzing academic journal articles. A lot of you have to do research for your classes, and our goal here is for you to understand the structure of an academic article so it makes it a little easier for you to read. So let's get started. All right, so we're going to be looking at the major parts of an academic article. So when you're doing research and your teacher asks you to look at an academic article, it can seem pretty overwhelming when you look at them because there's all these kind of fancy words and some interesting formatting. There's lots of inline citations that can be confusing. But I promise everything is pretty straightforward once you understand the structure of what an academic article is. So let's start with the top. What do we have at the top? We have the title. Actually, even further above this, we have where the article was published in the particular journal, but we're going to start here at the title. The title is, Are We Adapting to Climate Change? So the title is really meant to preview or give you a sense of what is going to be in the article. Below that, we have the lists of authors. Oftentimes with academic articles, there will be a series of researchers or professors that are working together on a project, particularly in something like this, which is science. And so here we have 3 different authors. Below that, you have what university these researchers are associated with, okay? So that's what you have at the top. Over here, you have some information about when the article was received. It was also revised, when it was accepted. And then below that, you have some keywords. So these are kind of the words that you're going to see frequently in this particular academic article. Now, this right here is one of the most important pieces, which is the abstract. The abstract is essentially a summary of what the article is going to tell you. Okay? It acts as a short summary. There is actually a word count, a certain word count or a word limit for how long this abstract can be, because you don't want it to be too long, or then it's not really a summary anymore. And so it doesn't have everything, but all the key components of the article will be included in this section in the abstract. So generally my rule of thumb is if you're doing research and you're not sure if the article is going to be helpful for your research, you start by reading the abstract. Now, the next major section is the introduction. And what the introduction does is it introduces and outlines the total research paper. Now, in here, you will often find what question they're trying to answer. So if you think about this using maybe like if you ever competed in the science fair or did science experiments, you always start with like a hypothesis or a question that you want to answer through your research or through your experiments. You'll find that in the introduction. So they'll give you some background information, they'll hopefully give you the research question, and then set out what they plan to do in their research. Okay, so introductions can be various sizes. This one is about 3 or 4 paragraphs. Next section, and this is another large section, this is the methodology section. So what the methodology section is essentially is going to explain how the procedures and the actions that they're going to do in their particular experiment or study. So who they're going to, if the research was about people's feelings about climate change, they might describe how they're going to find the people they're going to ask, what kinds of questions they're going to ask. If this was, does a feather drop faster from the top of a roof versus a brick? They're going to explain what kind of brick they're going to use, what kind of feather they're going to use. Methodology, just focus on this first part of this word, which is method. So the method, how they're actually going to try to answer that question. That's the methodology section. Okay, so you can see the methodology section is about a little less than a page. All right, next section, results. That should be pretty obvious what that is. Results are where they tell you the results of the experiment, the study, whatever is being described in the methodology, they're telling you what happened. And so this is where you'll get the actual numbers and information. And in this case, we have kind of a visual description. We've got some tables here. We also have some percentages. These percentages are the results of their study. All right, so we're going to scroll down. We've got a lot of information here on data that was found in the results. So you can see the results section goes on for a long time. The next major section is called the discussion section. Now the discussion section is essentially where the data is broken down, the data that they got from the study, the results section, into more readable and understandable words. Sometimes the results section can be confusing and it's got a lot of data. The discussions question is where they kind of put in layman's terms or make it simple what the results that they found from the study were. Okay, so the discussion is where you really get to see like what does all this data mean. Okay. Now, periodically, academic articles will have a conclusion section, but they don't have to. And the conclusion section just kind of summarizes essentially what the results were, what the discussion was, and then how we should think about the data that we gathered. Okay? And then last but not least, we have the bibliography and referencing section, which in this case is super long. We've got a lot of references here. This is where you see who they read first before they actually started conducting their study. Okay? That's the overview of the different parts of an academic article. Hopefully it's helpful in your research. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you understand a little bit better the structure of an academic article. We'll see you next time.